Again and again, exactly what we saw last season. They start off maybe a little bit slowly. The question marks are there, and they were there this season over Ancelotti and how those attacking players were fitting together, particularly Vinny Jr. and Mbappe. But they just hit form at the perfect time.
Look at this. Here we go. Round of 16. Here is the bracket. A lot of very interesting matchups. Looking at that PSG Liverpool, at the Madrid derby, Bayern Munich against Leverkusen. So many good ties to wait for here on Tuesday. And we've already seen some of the predictions from our colleagues, from Ian Joy, from Nate Bukaty, from Chris Whittingham. Now it's our turn. And we're going to start with Adam's predictions. Here we go.
Speaking of March Madness and bracketology, I almost went mad doing this. I was drawing it out on the piece of paper, changing my mind constantly, time after time after time. So let's have a look which way we've gone. I'll talk you way through it. We'll start over here. PSV Arsenal. It's a tough one to call. I think Arsenal are going to get through that one. Even without a striker, they'll get through. Then they'll be playing Real Madrid, who will win the Madrid derby against Atletico. I think that's going to be so close. It'll be such an entertaining tie over the two legs, but I do have Real Madrid to pip it, and they'll go through to play Arsenal in the quarter-final. Then below that, I've got PSG beating Liverpool, which I think it would be considered a bit of an upset. We'll talk a bit more about PSG in just a second. Club Brugge against Aston Villa, hard to call. I've gone with Villa in that one. And then it will be Real Madrid versus PSG in that semi-final of that side. I'll talk about the final in a second. Go round to the other side, the round of 16. Benfica against Barcelona. I've got Barcelona winning that one. Dortmund against Lille. Again, hard to call. They've neither have been particularly special so far in the Champions League this season. And I think Dortmund will just about edge it to get through against Barcelona in the quarters. Then down at the bottom, I've got Leverkusen to continue that good recent form in the head-to-head against Bayern to get through against them. And it will be Inter who beat Feyenoord to get through against Leverkusen. Then in the quarterfinals on this side, I've got Barcelona against Dortmund. I think Barcelona will win that. And I think Inter Milan will get through against Leverkusen. If I could change one thing, having looked at it now, and especially the way they've been playing recently, I would actually flip that. And I can't make any changes, so I'm not going to do it. But I do think that Inter Milan perhaps will not be able to get all the way through to the semi-finals. I've got them going here. So it'll be a Barcelona against Inter Milan semi-final on one side, Real Madrid against PSG on the other side. And then I've got the final that we all want, the Clasico final. It's never happened in Champions League history. And who wins it? I think it will be Real Madrid, but it would be a great final.
I mean, absolutely. I think as a neutral, you want to see a Clasico final in the Champions League would be absolute theater. But I'm going to go back. I'm going to focus on this PSG-Liverpool match tie. It is, I don't think it's an upset per se. PSG playing some fantastic football right now, definitely the best football of the season. But why are you giving PSG that edge against what's widely been considered the best team in Europe in Liverpool so far this season?
Well, I think this is the acid test for PSG. This is where they get to prove that they really are the real deal this season in European football, not just in French football. And I think the reason I say that is because the way that they've changed their approach this season compared to previous years. Before, in PSG, it was always sign the big stars, the Kylian Mbappes, the Neymars, and it was all about those big stars. It wasn't about the team. And they were never able to really come up trumps in these kind of performances when they really needed it in the Champions League, which ultimately is where they want to have success. They want to win the Champions League. We know they're going to win Liga. That doesn't matter. For them, it's about having success in the Champions League. And I think now, we saw them in the last round when they played against Brest in the playoff. In that second leg, they won 7-0. They had 7 different goal scorers, and Dembele, who's been their star player, especially recently and over the course of the whole season, didn't score. So I think the thing for the PSG fans that's making them feel really positive is they've got a variety of players that contribute. It's not all about now, does their star player, whether that be Neymar or Kylian Mbappe last season, choke or not in this big game in the Champions League. That's not the narrative. Right. It's now all of these players contributing. They've got so many exciting youngsters. I mentioned Dembele. They've got Barcola. They had an 18-year-old who scored in that game as well. So many exciting players going forward. Vitinha, Hakimi as well. So I think that they're going to cause an upset. And then I've got them, I do think then they would get through past Aston Villa. And I think it'd be a great game between Real Madrid and PSG. I've got Real Madrid getting to the final. I think Ian had PSG going all the way. And I think this could potentially be their season where they change the narrative about them at the top table in European football.
And Real Madrid, your champion, because we've seen this so many times before. I mean, is that really what you're kind of banking on?
Just following the script again and again, exactly what we saw last season. They start off maybe a little bit slowly. The question marks are there, and they were there this season over Ancelotti and how those attacking players were fitting together, particularly Vinny Jr. and Mbappe. But they just hit form at the perfect time. And I think the rest of the competition will have watched that game against Manchester City in the second leg and have been seriously worried about what Real Madrid can do from now onwards.
Fair point. It's hard to argue when Real Madrid has done this so many times before. So let's switch it up. Let's look at my bracket now. A little different, definitely a little different. Let's start at the top. I do think, as poor as Arsenal have been, and as much as they desperately need goals, I still think that they have enough to beat a PSV side that's been riddled with injuries. Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, it really is a toss-up right now, but I think Real Madrid just has have that little bit more quality and some more experienced players that have done this before and will just squeak by their city rivals. Down here, PSG Liverpool. I did go for Liverpool. I think it will be a very, very tight tie, but I do believe that PSG's lack of experience and youth will play a part in this tie against Liverpool. Now, it won't be easy. Liverpool have to go to Paris for the first leg, so it will be a little bit more complicated for them, but I do think they have enough to go through. Aston Villa and Club Brugge, won't give too much on that. I do think Aston Villa just the better side, even though they have been a little bit shaky as of late. I do think that they are the better side. We look over here now on the other end. Barcelona to advance against Benfica. I love how Barcelona play. They will give up some goals in that match like they did already in this Champions League against Benfica. I think an upset that I'm picking here is Lille over Dortmund. And the simple fact of this one is I don't trust Borussia Dortmund. All season long, they have one great game and one absolutely terrible match where you have no idea what happens. And I'm not going to back a Dortmund side under Niko Kovac that really I don't know what their identity is. And I think Lille, I don't think they're as skilled, but I think they know their identity, they know how to play, and I think they will make it very difficult on Lille. I think Lille squeak by and upset Borussia Dortmund. On the other end, Leverkusen beating Bayern Munich simply because of the form that we've just seen them in. Leverkusen in better form right now than Bayern, even though Bayern is the top of the table, 11 points clear. They're playing better football. They have their number, and we've seen them now 6 matches in a row where Bayern cannot beat Bayer Leverkusen. I think they go through. Inter is an interesting side. I was very high on them earlier in the season, and now I'm not so much, but I do think they have enough to get past Feyenoord. And this is where it all changes, because this is where we took different, where we believe that Leverkusen and Inter Milan is a fantastic match. And just so you get a little bit of a behind the scenes into my mind, I had a future on Inter Milan to win the Champions League at 18-1 earlier in the season. So I believed in them. And now I have Leverkusen beating them in the round, in the quarterfinals to advance. I don't think Inter has enough right now. I think that they have not gotten out of third gear. They have the depth, but I don't think that they have enough to beat a Leverkusen side that is really flying and feeling a lot more confident in themselves right now. Barcelona advancing against Lille. That'll be that semifinal. Real Madrid beating Arsenal. I don't think that's going to be quite difficult for Real Madrid to advance. Liverpool beating Aston Villa. So the semifinals are set. Liverpool beating Real Madrid. Leverkusen, they do it. They beat Barcelona and they advance to the final. So I know everyone wants Real Madrid and Barcelona, the Clásico final. I'm going the opposite of that. I'm taking Liverpool and Leverkusen. And Liverpool, look, they have been, and I know I'm a fan of Liverpool, sure, and I'm not sure that that's going to be some of the criticism I get, but they have been the best team, in my opinion, top to bottom, all season long in Europe. Couple of matches here and there where they maybe didn't impress as much, but I think top to bottom, they've been the best side, both offensively and defensively in Europe, and I think that they go on and win the double, Premier League and the Champions League.
I love that we both wanted a redo on Inter Milan, but no redos in this bracketology. I suppose the one that jumps out for me is the fact that you've got Leverkusen going all the way to the final. What makes you believe that they've got enough and what it takes to get all the way, particularly getting past Barca in the semis?
Look, I think that Barcelona is a team that's going to score. I think there's going to be a lot of goals in that semifinal. If it is Barcelona and Leverkusen, I would say that it comes down to a little bit of experience. I think that Leverkusen, now knowing that they're not really playing for Bundesliga, this is going to be all their focus, right? To try to get to win Champions League, to try to go after it with Xabi Alonso as their manager. I do believe that they're going to beat Bayern easily. Then Inter is the one that I think that's the kind of the catalyst where I don't know which way that can go. But if it's the Inter that we've seen as of late, I think Leverkusen fly through that. And then the Barcelona match, look, it'll be tough, but Barcelona love to concede goals, and Leverkusen has been better on the defensive end as we've seen them progress through the season. So I do think that more experience for Leverkusen against the Barca side that's still young, doesn't feel a lot of pressure, but concedes too many goals, and I think Leverkusen could take advantage of that and reach the final.
And they've got a blueprint to follow. We saw it with Dortmund last season getting all the way through to the final, and you could draw parallels between those two if it was to happen.
Yeah, I think so too. That's why I believe. And for you bettors out there as well, Leverkusen 10-1 to just get to the final. So something to look at there.